Hello, we're here to do the cuff down version of the Garter rib sock. Again, mine's in Christmas colors and holiday colors because that's the time of year. It works for any color. Works for self-striping, variegated, it doesn't matter. Any color. I'm attempting to record this in the morning hours, and that's probably going to be a mistake, because the world is noisy in the daytime. Here we go. We have cats scratching a scratcher, dog feet, which their nails are getting trimmed this week. Apologize for the background noise. Hopefully we can do this. Okay, so you can see this big jumbled mess here. I have all the things that I recommend you have to make this sock. So first off, it's going to be a ribbed cuffs, knit 2, purl 2, but we're going to start knit 1, then go into the purl 2, knit 2 around and end on a knit 1. And then that will transition into the leg, which is the garter rib. So that will be alternating rounds of all knit and the same knit 2, purl 2. The same way we did with starting with a knit 1, ending with a knit 1 on the round. So this is every round for 20 rounds, knit 2, purl 2. And then this one's every other round of knit 2, purl 2. Then there's the double wedge heel. If you watched the toe up version, the wedge decreases go the opposite direction. I mean, you're working the other way, so they it's not going to help showing you on this sock. Anyway, when we do the wedge, you're working the full half width of your loom. So all those stitches, the full width, and then you're decreasing, and it comes to, it makes a little wedge. And so there's the narrowest point is here, and then you're going to work all the way around. You're not increasing back out, going side to side the way you decreased. You're knitting all the way around, and then beginning the decreases again. So you start with the full half of your loom and decrease again, and then there's your narrow point, and then start working in the round again for your foot. So you're just never yo-yoing back out with increases. But it's really easy. There's no holes. It's very easy and it's very comfortable. It fits well. And then the toe is German short row, and we close it on the top. We'll be transferring to needles and closing the top with the Kitchener stitch. And the needles are not, they're just to hold your stitches while you do the graft with a yarn needle or tapestry needle. So for these, if you want to make the sock in the same colors I did, which I was kind of aiming for, like the feel of a traditional Christmas stocking, I'm using Cascade Yarns Heritage, their sock yarn, for both colors. And they're both 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. This is the label. This is a more affordable merino and nylon sock yarn. I've got it in white, the color number 5682. I don't know if that shows. And 5619 for the red, and that is Christmas red. They are obviously these are two full, I made the first sock out of them, full 100-gram skeins. You definitely are not going to use all of that. You could easily make, if you did, you can make the sock one color. It's just fine. But that 2 skeins is enough to make at least 2 pairs of socks. You would reverse your colorway, you know, to make your second pair, but yeah, it's fine. If you have little feet, maybe even 3. So that's our yarns. 100 grams is enough to make most sizes, and like I said, I'm using 2 colors, so I had 2 balls of it. And then, excuse me, so obviously a loom. I'm using the 64 peg, the His loom from the KB His and Her sock loom set. I'm using that. You're going to want to your loom to be a multiple of 4, your peg count to be a multiple of 4 for this pattern. Yeah, so I'm using this. You can use whatever sock loom. I recommend a 1/4 inch gauge loom, or one that you can use fingering weight yarn with. You can adjust it for a larger gauge loom and thicker yarn, but you're gonna need to figure out how many pegs to do, you know, for fit. Like this design, it just needs to be a multiple of 4. You could use a great big giant one and make an actual Christmas stocking. Although I don't know that I would do ribbing for a Christmas stocking, but the ribbing makes a nice fit for a sock for your foot. But anyway, your loom tool, scissors, yarn needle, tapestry needle. I actually use a smaller one than this, but this is just to show you what you need. A row counter. I've got 2 different kinds here. These stitch markers, I use them to mark my pegs. I'm using these ones from KB. There's 2 sizes in here, or 2 sizes. There's 2 sizes, but there's two of the colors. This purple here and this blue are the ones that fit the 1/4 inch gauge pegs perfectly. These are what I did use for years. I got them off of Amazon. They're just rubber, or they're silicone rings, so they're soft. These ones are smaller, so they do fit better, but these work. And yeah, just look for like silicone stitch markers on Amazon. For the toe section, locking stitch markers, like these gourd or light bulb shaped locking stitch markers in at least 2 colors, and you need one for every stitch. So for the same amount of pegs you have on your loom that you'll be using, you need a locking stitch marker for that. There's this small kit, and then there's bigger ones. You can find them on Amazon. Yeah, so I recommend those. That's to help save your sanity when you're transferring your stitches from the loom to the needles. And then the needles come in. There's DPNs, double pointed needles, and in a size, I recommend like a size 1, like a 2.25 millimeter or smaller. I would recommend. That's what I have here, size 1. And you just would be using 2 of them, or, and I prefer this way, a circular needle. This is also a size 1. This one happens to be long. I also knit socks on needles, so I have these, but it doesn't need to be this long, but I do magic loop method, so. But yeah, I bless you. My cat is still sneezy. Yeah, I forgot where I was. You'll need the, excuse me, this is what I prefer to hold my stitches. They're not going to fall off the back of the needle that way. It's easy. Put this away. Okay, so to mark off your loom with your pegs, you want to put you're going to divide your peg. You're going to divide your loom in half. So whether you have a rectangle, round, oval, it doesn't matter. You will divide your loom the same. Divide it in half, because your toe and heel will be worked on one half of the loom. The same for this, the way I do it, I'm doing it on the same side. So you just need to mark half your loom. I'm using 64 pegs, so half my loom is 32. You divide that half of your loom into thirds. You divide it by 3, and you know, get your sections as even as you can. Bless you. 32 does not divide evenly by 3, so I have my center heel section, the part that, you know, this is going to will decrease on this section, decrease on this section, and for the toe, decrease and increase back out. So that's what these mark, where I start my decreases, where I end where the last one is, and the same on this side, the first and the last, and then increasing back out first to last, and these stay the same. You just knit them. These are going to end up with like double loops, or the look of double loops on them, and these will always be one. So I have mine a little wider in the center. If you need, you can make yours narrower, so that you have more pegs on the outer sections. So I have mine divided with 10 pegs, 12 in the middle, and then 10 over here. That's how I divide mine. So divide it how you want to. Just divide it into thirds. And I put a peg on, I put a stitch marker, I'm so sorry, on peg 1 and peg 10. Then I skip the 12 in the middle. So then I come back to, what would this be, 23? Peg 23, and then peg 32. See, 23. Yes. So for me, on my 64 peg loom, peg 1, 10, 23, and 32 have markers. I know if you're looking at it, it doesn't look like, they look uneven, but it's not. This is 32 pegs, and then if I was coming from this side, it'd be the same. This would look like the same as peg 1 and positioning on an oval loom. And so this is going to be the top half of the foot. This will make the top half of the front, the front of your sock. This is the back. Okay, so I'm going to cast on. I'm going to make a magic loop. Just take your yarn, twist it, or magic loop. Please forgive me. I am not ready for today, I don't think. I hoped I was, but we're going to make a slip knot. Twist the yarn, grab it. I'm assuming that you know how to do that. Put it on peg 1, cinch. Going to do a double E-wrap cast on. See if I can get in here. I left a really long tail. I don't want it that long. And I tend to leave long tails because I like to weave in really well, but it's still long. Oh well, we're good. We're good. Okay. I'm not going to double wrap the first one with my, that I put the slip knot on. I just don't think it's necessary. It's on there securely. So you can wrap twice like that. Knit the first one, knit it off. I do each peg individually because the way I do it, let me prop this up. The way I don't fight. The way I do it, I start wrapping around. I just grab the yarn and wrap it the second time and pull over. Of course I'm gonna be awkward. So however you choose to do it. Come on. Yeah, I just don't have the muscle memory for this. Wrap it twice. However you choose. Choose to do it. Do that all the way around the loom, and I'll meet you back here at peg 1. Okay, I've got my loom fully cast on, so we're going to start counting round 1, and it is all knit. Odd rounds are all going to be no, I'm sorry. That doesn't count for the cuff. The cuff is all the same, odd and even. We start with knit 1, then we're going to purl the next 2. Oh, let me get in. We're going to purl the next 2. And to purl, if you've never done it, you have your yarn in front. You have your yarn in front for all of them. In front and down below the loop on your peg. Come from above with your loom tool into that loop. Scoop your working yarn up and take that loop off your peg and put the new one that you just made back on and cinch it. Do it again. Don't drop that loop and cinch. And then the knits are U-wrap knit, so you just kind of go around it. Just drape your yarn around it in a U, around your peg, and knit off. Knit 1, knit 2. So we started with a knit 1, then we go into purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, around. We continue with the, purl 2, knit 2, around to the last peg in your round, and that's a knit 1. So do a couple more purls. Purl 1. Purl 2. Knit 1. Knit 2. continue it around, and we're going to do that for 20 rounds. So come back when you have your 20 rounds done, and we will move on to changing color if you're doing that. If not, just keep your same yarn going, and we'll move on to the leg. Okay, I'm back, and I have my 20 rounds of knit 2, purl 2 done for the cuff. So now we're going to change color. I am going to change color. Maybe you are too. Maybe you're not. But we're going to start the leg. Cutting, leaving a tail to weave in. I'm going to start with the red, and here is where we're going to be doing odd numbered rounds, knit even all the way around. That sounds funny. Knit every stitch, and even numbered rounds we're going to be doing like the cuff, the knit 2, purl 2, starting with knit 1, then purl 2. So I'm gonna start counting round 1. And it's just knits. Oh, here we have a train. Hold on. Okay. So leaving a tail long enough for weaving in. Wrap the peg with the new yarn and knit over with the old. I'm going to knit a few pegs off. Now I'm going to take the tails of both colors. I'm going to tie them in a bow. Now just you wrap knit every stitch around for round 1. And I'll meet you back around at when we're back to peg 1. Okay, I'm back at peg 1, and unfortunately the neighbor has started to start up their pressure washer. Oh, they shut it off. This shouldn't take too long for me to show this part of it. Even though it might get noisy out there, I just need to get this done because then I have hours of knitting until I come to the next point. So this is now, we're starting round 2, and we're going to do this round just like we did the cuff. Sorry for the noise. Knit 1, purl 2, knit the next 2, purl the next 2, just like you did the cuff. And continue alternating those rounds. For me, I'm doing a 70 round leg, but the last 5 rounds of the leg before the heel, I am doing the pattern, the knits and purls pattern only on the front of the leg, and the back of the leg's all going to be knit. And that style after the heel, that method will continue into the foot. So the bottom of the foot will be all, every round is going to be knit stitches for the bottom of the foot, and the top will be the alternating rounds of knits and then knit 2, purl 2. We're not there yet, we're just the leg. This is all the way around. We're alternating odd numbered rounds, knit every stitch, odd numbered rounds, knit every stitch, even rounds. You're doing the knit purl pattern like the cuff. I'm going to go to 65 rounds, and then my last 5 rounds I'm going to be doing half knit, half pattern, like I said. So you can work a shorter leg, you can do a longer leg, end on an even round, so that you know, the last 5 we're starting with an odd numbered round for the half and half. Okay, I will see you whenever I'm going to come back after I have 65 rounds of my leg done. Okay, so I've done 65 rounds, and now from 66 to 70, I'm going to be working my knit purl pattern only on the front of the sock. Whenever it's time for that round. The back of the sock will be all knit, and this is going to be the same for when we're into the foot after the heel. So starting round 66, the first half is just knit. So knit from your first marker to your last marker on this side, and I will see you over there. Okay, so then just like we did with the leg, we're going to knit 1, then purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and so on, and ending with a knit 1 on the last stitch, on the last peg. So do that for the remaining 5 rounds of your leg, and when you have those done, come back and we will make the double wedge heel. Make sure that you keep alternating your rounds. After you do a round that, you know, your even rounds will have the knit 2, purl 2 pattern across the front of the leg, and your odd rounds are knit all around. Okay, just wanted to say that. Come back when you have them done. Okay. All my rounds for my leg are done. So now it's time for the heel. I don't count I don't count the rows for the heel, but we count when we go all the way around. So I'm going to set my counter to 0. So we'll be ready to begin for the foot. Okay, so for the heel, I'm going to knit across to the peg just before our last marked peg. Okay. Knit that. Now for the last one, we're going to have the yarn behind, come around, oh, I'm coming around the wrong one, come around to the front and across, back to the peg we just knit. We're going to knit again. And then that leaves us with 2 loops on that last marked peg. And we knit back the other way to the peg just before our very first marked peg. So back to where we came from. And we're going to do that again. Okay, so behind that very first marked peg, around across the front, and back around the peg that we had just knit that off. Now we have 2 loops there. We're going to go back and forth until all of the pegs from the first and last marked to the inner marked pegs, until they all have 2 loops on them. So I'll show you again another couple times. Okay, so make sure that you're stopping on the peg just before the next one to be wrapped. We just do the same thing we did. And one more. So go back and forth doing that until these sections all have 2 loops on all those pegs. And I will see you for the next step. Okay, so I have double loops on all of mine in the marked section. So now if you watched the toe-up version of this sock, I said when we're gonna knit all the way around, and I say don't count that round. I'm gonna go ahead and count it. I just the last in my foot section, the last 2 rounds before I knit the toe, I knit them. Those last 2 rounds are all knit, so I'm going to be counting my normal foot rounds, and then I'll just add those 2 at the end. So now we're going to do round 1, because we're going to knit all the way around and we want to stay in pattern on the front of the sock. So it's an odd round, an odd numbered round, so it's knit. All the stitches are just knit. So okay, so I've come to my first peg with the 2 loops, and you can knit them off one at a time, like that. or knit them off together. Either way, whichever way you're most comfortable with. Knit all the way around till you're back at peg 1. You're ready to knit on peg 1. I will see you then. Okay, so I'm not going to change to round 2 yet, even though it's what we'll be doing. I'm not going to do it until we're ready to actually work in the round again. So now we're back at the front and we have this next section of the double loops, and you do the same. You knit them off as one or individually, however you prefer. But we're going to knit across, and we're going to do exactly what we did the first time. We're just going to repeat that whole wrap and turn section to make our second wedge. So we're knitting these off, but then when we get over onto the other end to our last marked peg, we're going to start our wrap and turns back and forth again. So do that, and then come back when you have the double loops again on those sections. I will see you then. Okay, so we did it again. Got the 2 loops on every one of them. 2 loops on every one of them. So we're going to do again what we did the last time and knit around. This time we're changing it to round 2. We're doing it the same. So when you get to, I'm gonna pause the video until you get to this end. Okay, so now we're on the front of the sock, and it's an even round, so we have to do it in pattern. Knit 1, purl 2, knit 2, and so on. And so then we're just going to keep continuing the pattern. Once you get back, you start on round 3 here. When you're back to peg 1, you're going to change to round 3, and that's going to be knit all around, and you're just going to continue the pattern how you did those last 5 rounds of the sock leg. So the back of the sock, or the sole, the bottom of the foot, is going to always be knit, and the front, the top of the foot, is going to be alternating rounds of knit and knit 2, purl 2. So continue that until you have the foot as long as you need it, which should be, I don't know, you can measure it on your foot. When you get done with your sock, you want it to, your finished sock to be a 1/2 inch shorter than the total length of the foot that you want that sock to fit. So after you've been working in your foot a little ways, most of the socks that are made on this this loom with the 64 pegs, your toe's going to be about 1.5 inches long, you know, give or take a little bit. So if you figure out the length of your foot minus the 1/2 inch, and then subtract another 1.5 inches, then that's when you stop your rounds, when you're like an 1.5 inches shy of the foot length that you want. And then you make your toe, and it should make the sock that fits you well with negative ease. If you're making this on, with a lot more pegs, your toe's going to be longer. So you just kind of, you can measure your heel, like one of the wedges, the depth of the wedge. And your toe should be pretty similar. So you would subtract that depth of the wedge off your desired finished sock length. And that's when you would stop knitting the length of the foot and start your toe. Okay, well for me it's going to be 72 rounds. The last 2 rounds of those 72 rounds will be all knit. So knit your sock to the length, making the last 2 rounds all knit rounds around. Okay, I will see you when it's time for the toe. Okay, I am back. I have all the rounds of my foot done and ready for the toe. And the toe is going to be German short row. So different from how we did the heel. Your markers are the same. We'll be decreasing the same amount and then increasing back out. So the same markers that you have for your double wedge heel, you're using for the toe. And to do the German short row, there's no need to count any rows or anything because we're going by markers. We have a visual. So, gonna knit from peg 1 all the way to your last marked peg on the half. I'll meet you over there. Okay. Knit that one, and we're going to knit that the marked peg. Then pull the yarn back to the front and across. Sorry, movement across into the previous peg. Knocking my light, and knit that over. And then I pull slack in the yarn there, and then continue knitting the other way. It's okay if you lose some of that slack. It still has more give than if you didn't do that. So now we're knitting all the way back to peg 1. I'll meet you there. Knit that off. Again, pull it forward and across to the previous one. I'm trying to do this while looking at the screen. Knit that off. So now we look like we have 2 loops on peg 1. Put slack in there. The same as that. We're going to be doing this for all of our all the pegs in our decrease section, decrease and increase section. So every one of them, from this peg to this peg, this one to this one, will end up having those two loops. So the difference like on the heel, you know, we knit across and we we stopped knitting the peg before the one that was going to be wrapped. This time we knit the peg and then we pull it back. It's not a true wrap, but anyway. So I'll meet you back on the other end. Pull it forward, cross. Knit it over, pull some slack. Pull slack. So we're going to do that, like I said, for all of them, but I'm going to come back on when we are coming to these two. So I'll see you then. Keep going back and forth. Okay, I'm coming up on one of the last decrease on this side of the loom. So I'm going to knit it, bring it forward and across, knit over. We're not going to pull slack out anymore, not after the last two. All right, now it's time to increase out. So we're going to knit back over to the other marked peg. Okay, the first two that you knit off are going to be the tightest, really tight. You're going to need to use gentle but firm pressure, if that makes sense. And I don't recommend trying to knit them off one loop at a time, because it's not a true two loop thing. So knit them together. I hold my working yarn behind it with good pressure so that I don't pull it off with the two loops. And I just kind of work it over. Let's go back to the other one. After these first two, they're not quite so hard. But you still want to be careful. Hold on, I gotta train. Okay. So again, get into the loops, keep your working yarn pulled taut behind, and just gently work that over. And we're going to go back and forth, increasing out. Okay. That one was much easier. And then I forgot to mention, when we are knitting the other way, our yarn's behind, we bring it forward and in front of the next one. So after the one we knit off, around and in front of the next one. And the yarn around in front. Keep going back and forth till you've knit all the way back out. And you're back at peg 1. I will see you then. So I'm back. I've knit all the way back out. And I've knit off peg 1. But I need the working yarn to end up on this side of the loom, at the front of this side of the loom, because we're going to have this half of the loom on one needle. This will be our front needle, and this will end up on our back needle, and I need the yarn to be coming off the back needle. So now we're going to knit around to the last peg. So just like you'd been doing back and forth, you had knit this, come up from behind and in front of this peg, and knit all the way around, and I will see you there. Right, so I'm back. My yarn is in the right position now. So now I'm going to get my scissors. We're going to cut the yarn, but first we're going to wrap it like 3 times around the loom. That's going to be more than you'll need, but better too long than too short. Cut that. I'm going to be using circular needles for the Kitchener graft to hold my stitches. Okay, now the locking stitch markers. You need one for every stitch. Do make sure that each half of your loom is different, visually different. I'm going to make sure I have like this rose gold color on the first, bless you, and last of this half of the loom, first and last peg. That way if I run out in the middle, I can just supplement with a different color in the inside, and then do very different colors on the other side, the other half of the loom. So put a locking stitch marker on every stitch, and then come back. See how I have this side in one color, and I'm doing the other side in another, so I can keep it separate. Okay, so I've got stitch, locking stitch marker on every stitch. Time to start putting them on the needle, and they need to go on a certain way. We're starting on the marked half of the loom on peg 1. Pull it off. Take your needle come through. Oh, there we go. Come through. Oh, it's not even showing. So take the stitch off the loom and take the needle through the front leg. From behind it to the front. Hopefully you can see that. Pull the next loop up by the marker, going behind that front leg through. We want to do the same way for every stitch around. And we have these on the marker, locking stitch marker, in case one falls off. We do not lose that stitch. It is peace of mind. Try to move those stitch markers to the inside after you get it on the needle. The second half of the loom should be easier. Not so tight. We'll see. It's hard to see the loop on this one. Make sure you're going through it. There you go. Okay, that is the first half of the loom. And I'm on circulars, so I'm pulling my needle through because I have another end. So I'm going to keep these on this one needle, the front needle. I'm going to come back this way and start. We do it the exact same way. And I'm just picking up where I left off on my trip around the loom. Just be patient. What is making that noise? Need to push my needle forward. What, Binks? The cats are wild. Crazy. He's got pulled very loose. Okay. I can cinch him up. Goodness. Okay, so this looks like a mess right now. But this is our front needle and this is the back. So more at the front of the toe of the socks will be the front needle and the back. And our working yarn is coming off the back needle. And now that we have all of our stitches on, we can take these stitch markers off. So keep your front and back separated, like I have here, using this circular. If you're using double pointed needles, you'll have one side on one needle on one side on the other. Make sure none fall off the front or the back of your DPN. Yep. Just start taking them off, and after you have them all off, come back and we will move on to the grafting. Okay, so all the stitch markers are off. I'm going to bring all the stitches up onto the needle. If you're on DPNs, they're already on the needle. I'm going to thread my yarn through my tapestry needle. It's going to be really long to work with for a while, but it'll be shortening as we go. So now for the Kitchener graft, for the Kitchener stitch, there's a setup round, but you don't have to do it. We're not going to do it. If you do it at the end of your toe, you end up with these. You can end up with these pointy, they call them ears, and you might end up with that on the top of your toe too. We want to avoid that, so we're not going to do the setup round. We're just going to go right into how to graft. So we've got the yarn off the back needle. We come up. When you go through, we're going to go through the stitch from left to right on this front needle, and that is called knitwise. We're going to go through, put the needle in there, take this loop off and pull the needle through, and then take and go through the next stitch behind it from right to left, and that's called purlwise. And then we pull the yarn all the way. That's on the front needle. Then we go to the back needle and we come through purlwise, so right to left through this stitch, and we pull it off the needle, pull some of it through. Then we come back through to the next stitch behind it, that was behind it, and we go left to right, so purlwise through that, and pull your working yarn all the way through. And I'm tugging it up a little, but you're not going to want to pull everything really tight. I'm just doing it right here at the beginning, because the idea is to make a seamless graft. Okay, so now we come back to the front needle, and we come through knitwise, take that stitch off, come into the stitch that was behind it, purlwise, pull your yarn through. Now the back needle, purlwise, take the stitch off the needle, then come into the stitch that was behind it, knitwise. And back to the front, knitwise, knitwise, taking it off the needle, purlwise through the one behind it, and that stays on the needle for now. Back loop, purlwise, taking the stitch off, then through the next stitch knitwise, leaving the stitch on. And tug up your slack. See, no, you can't see, we're grafting it closed. Back to the front, knitwise off the needle, purlwise in the next, leaving it on. Back needle, purlwise, taking it off. Then through the next stitch knitwise, leaving it on. So your front needle is always going to be knitwise, the knitwise, the stitch comes off the needle, then you go back through purlwise into the next stitch that was behind it, leaving it on the needle. And the back needle, you take the stitch off purlwise, and then you go through the next one behind it knitwise and leave it on. So we'll do it a couple more times. Knitwise, off, purlwise, purlwise, it stays on the needle there. You can see when my yarn's coming out on this side, I know that I'm going into the back needle next. So purlwise, take the stitch off, and then go through knitwise, leaving the stitch on. My cats. Front needle, knitwise, take the stitch off, then go through purlwise, leaving that stitch on the needle, back, purlwise off, then knit, go through knitwise, leaving it on the needle. You can see it's looking great. So keep going, and I will come back on when we're at this, when you're nearing the end. Come back to the video because I'm going to show you how we're going to do the final stitches. Make sure as you're working to always keep that your working yarn below the needles. You don't want it to come up and wrap around them. Okay, I've got 4 left on each side. I'm going to keep going until I have 2 left on each needle. Alright, so for the last ones, got 2 left on each needle. I'm going to go through both of the front ones knitwise and take them off. Pull my yarn through, then go purlwise through both on the back needle and take them off. And pull the yarn all the way through. And then just stick your hand into your sock. To this side. Put the needle in. Pull this yarn through. And our toe is done. I did pull a little bit tight through here. It will wear just fine. So now all that's left is to, I'm going to stretch it into shape a little bit. Now all that's left is to weave in the ends. Weave in all our tails. And turn the sock inside out. So it's way more yarn than we need here on this. Excuse me. So I'm going to cut it off. And I'm going to weave it in on the bottom. Make sure you don't go through both layers of your sock when you're weaving in your tails. I'm going to go back the other direction for a few. Because I'm not making any knots in this. I don't want it to come undone. And back the other direction again. Don't pull this tight. You just kind of want to pull it flush. And that's good. Now the next ones are up here at the cuff. For me, if you did one color, you will only have your cast on. But here I had tied these in a bow. So now I just undid the bow, left the half knot there. I'll weave the red into the red section and the white into the white. I'm changing my direction because I want it to not come undone. Can't even see it on this side. we are done. Here's the first one. Now I have not washed these, obviously. I just finished this one. I apologize for the noise. I haven't washed the first one yet. There's some, the way it looks, these stitches will relax and get more uniform when they're washed, and then you don't have to block your socks. They'll block on your feet, but you certainly can if you wanted to. Get this on the blocker. Here's our pair. They look like Christmas stockings. Hopefully you enjoyed that. This is such a comfortable heel. This double wedge heel is so comfortable, and it's easy to do. So, well, thank you for watching and making socks with me. Let me know what you think. Happy knitting, and we will see you next time.